computer. Good evening and welcome to the Bible Hangout. I'm Reverend Sherry James, and you are here because you know that there is something more in you that God wants to do through you, and you are committed to letting it out. We are in the midst of an incredible series with Neville Goddard. I was going to say Nelson. Who in the world is Nelson? Neville Goddard. Your faith is your fortune. And the chapter that we're working from is chapter 12, Crucifixion and Resurrection. And the question that we're going to answer tonight is, do you know how to rock the winters of life? That's what tonight is about. It's about rocking the winters of life. And let's get right to it. So we've got a few announcements. We'll do our opening prayer. We're going to talk about the fact that the winters of life must come. And then I'm going to give you 5 rules for rocking the winters of life, and then Q&A. And of course, please ask questions throughout. Those questions really, really help guide the conversation. So please ask them. I want to hear them. I think it's important to know your why. Why? Because life gets hard. And so if there's something that you decide that you're going to do, life is going to ask you to prove that you really want to do it. And I am deeply committed to awakening you to your divine nature. I believe that so much of what we experience in this world comes from not knowing who we are. And I mean, so much of the bad stuff that we experience in this world comes from not knowing who we are. We don't know who we are, so we don't go for all the things that are out there for us. We don't take advantage of opportunities. You know, I remember coming through high school and just having, now mind you, I was a straight A student, but having a low opinion of myself compared to the other straight A students. There were 24 of us straight A students. Comparing myself inside that pantheon of high achievers. And I remember there being scholarships that I didn't apply for for what? And, I believe that when you know who you are, that you just go for life with gusto, and you don't second guess yourself, and you don't need someone else's light to dim in order for yours to shine, and no one else's has to dim in order for yours to shine. So awakening you to your divine nature is about changing life from this zero-sum game to a game where you win and everyone who decides to win gets to win too. And so I'm really interested in what that world looks like. And, I heard something today and I thought it was so powerful. It says, find something that you're willing to die for and then live for it. And that's what this Thursday night is about for me. That I'm willing to die to pass this information on. And so now I'm living to pass this information on. And I think that it is the most powerful thing that you can wake up to is who you are in the essence of your being, or in your divine nature. The Bible Hangout is free, but it does cost in order to produce it. And so it helps me when you make a gift, because it means that the expenses for it are covered. And so if this is a blessing to you, please go and make a gift at revsherry.com. A gift of any size makes a difference, and it just offsets the costs of producing the videos. We are going to Panorama of Truth. We're going to be in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Yes, I cannot wait. I haven't been to Atlantic City in ever. I get an opportunity to fly back into Philly. I told Jordan this morning that I'm going to take him to see where I went to college. And he was like, college? Like, really? For me? I was like, okay, yeah, not yet, in a few years. But I get to go back to my old stomping grounds, and I get to go to Panorama of Truth. So I'm really excited. This is August 1st through the 5th in Atlantic City, New Jersey. If you're on the East Coast, even if you don't come to the conference, I should tell you that evening sessions are free. We do a love offering, so you can come to any of the evening sessions, which are where all of the big speakers are. Come to any of the evening sessions, and you get an opportunity to hear these incredible speakers and just give a love offering to participate. Come join us. It's going to be amazing. We're doing a tribute to my spiritual mother. I just saw the trailer for it. I wonder if I could show it. Oh, that might be a mess trying to pull it up. All right, I'll have it ready next week. But this conference is going to be amazing. On Thursday, August 2nd, Roma Downey and a number of other celebrities are coming together to honor Reverend Della, to honor her contribution to New Thought, to the Universal Foundation for Better Living. She was the best friend or buddy of the late Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman. It's going to be amazing. So you definitely want to be there. And I'll be there, and let's hang out and get some coffee or tea. The scripture for this series is, therefore, I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. So this whole series is about the establishment of a deeper faith. That's what this is about, the establishment of a deeper faith. And everything that we have been studying is for the purpose of using our faith to mine the fortune that is inside of us. There is a fortune living in us. And we want to mine it, we want to get at it, and we want to get to it and take advantage of it, because not only does it bless us, but it blesses the entire world. And so that's what this series is about. How do I get all of this good stuff that's inside of me? How do I get it like outside of me and into expression? And so let's just take a moment to just relax and just be in this present moment. There's something absolutely wonderful happening for us, in us right now. The Spirit is moving through us into expression. And this study is unblocking the flow of Spirit. Unblocking whatever is obstructing, whatever the limiting beliefs, whatever negative feelings. This study time is part of the work of unblocking that flow, opening up for a greater expression of God in whatever form that is, in the form of our work, in the form of how we raise our children, and our interactions with our spouses, with our friends, and our contributions to society. What we want is more God in expression, more absolute good in expression. And so we take this time to study so that we may dig out those thoughts and those feelings that do not serve us. I thank you, God, for what we will let go of this evening. I thank you, God, for what will be anchored in this evening. In the name and nature of Jesus, we affirm that this is so, and so it is. And amen. All right, I am excited for this lesson for so many reasons. So the thing is that the winters of life must come. I don't know that you can avoid the winters of life. I think that life itself moves in cycles, that the same way that we have winter, spring, summer, and fall externally, we have winter, spring, summer, and fall internally. And I think that it is my opinion that part of life is learning to do the right things in the right season. That when you're going through a season in your life, to do what needs to be done in that season. So when we talk about rocking the winters of life, what we're saying is these are the things that need to be done during the winter of life. The winter is coming and spring shall follow. The question is, who will you be through that process? During the winter, and I thought this was powerful. I don't know if you guys read, I hope you guys read ahead in the chapter, but he talks about the movement of the sun and why Easter moves. And Easter is a movable date. And Easter falls anywhere between the 22nd of March and the 25th day of April. The way that it's determined is that the first Sunday after the full moon in Aries is celebrated as Easter. Aries begins on the 21st day of March and ends about the 19th day. The sun enters Aries, and it marks the beginning of spring. The moon in its monthly transit around the earth will form sometime between March 21st and April 25th in opposition to the sun, which opposition is called a full moon. The first Sunday after this happens is celebrated as Easter. And then the Friday before it's celebrated as Good Friday. And so what happens during the winter time is that the sun is moving. The earth is rotating around the sun, but it's also turning as it's rotating around the sun. And as it is rotating around the sun, the okay, baby. Let me finish class. Okay. As the sun is rotating around the earth, what happens is that for us, because of the rotation of the earth, the sun looks like it is going down and it reaches what we would call its lowest point. And our days get shorter as we get towards the end of the year. When we get to the shortest day of the year, which happens on Christmas Eve or going into Christmas Day, which is why we celebrate the birth on the 25th, is that the sun is at its lowest point that it's going to go. At that point, almost all of nature has been stilled almost to death. So all the plants die off, all the leaves die off, but it's been completely stilled. And then on December 25th, what happens is the sun begins its slow climb back to its highest point, which it reaches sometime around June. But it enters Aries, and when we get the first full moon in Aries, the following Sunday is Easter. To an untrained eye, the winter looks like death, and it looks like it'll never end because it's just bleak. It's bleak everywhere. And I think we kind of know the seasons now. Only maybe if you're a child, you don't know that winter is not going to end and that spring is coming. But, as an adult, spring is coming. So, even if it gets extended a little bit and what's the myth? The groundhog chases his shadow. If the groundhog chases his shadow, you get 6 more weeks of winter, but it's still only 6 more weeks. Spring is coming. The challenge is that we also have winters in our lives. And unlike the physical winter, which we know is going to end, the spiritual winter or mental or psychological winter feels like it's never going to end. It feels like spring is never going to come. And so we start to behave as if things that are bad, if you will, are always going to be bad. But the thing is that spring always follows winter. What may not change is you. The seasons in your life change, but how do you change from season to season? And really what that depends upon is what you do during the winter. What work do you do during the winter to actually prepare yourself? The winter is going to come. Spring is going to come, but will you be a different person when spring gets here? And some of us, and part of the reason that it feels like winter lasts forever, is that we move from winter to spring to summer to fall, winter, spring, summer to fall. And we're the same person conscious in terms of consciousness. So we haven't opened up for more money, so our money still looks funny. We haven't opened up for more love, so we're still walking around without the relationship that we want, or we're in a relationship that we know is not going to become the relationship that we want. Our friendships with friends and associates are no better than they were before because we don't do the work. And winter is when you do the work. Winter is when you do the work. You got to do the right things at the right times. Oh, you can't read that, can you? Let's back that up just a little bit. So the first rule that I want to give you is to use winter well. And this is a quote from Neville. He says, "Spring is a time of year when the millions of seeds which all winter lay buried in the ground suddenly spring into visibility that man might live." So winter is when you equip yourself. Winter is when you equip yourself. This is the time that you spend collecting skills. In the wintertime, if you were a farmer, you would get ready for the planting season. So you'd be getting all of your supplies. You'd be doing all of your repairs, all the tools that you use to farm. This is the time that you take to repair them, to make sure that they're in good order, to purchase new equipment if you need that equipment that you're going to need for the upcoming spring season. You can't sow anything in the winter because everything is dead. So that's not when you sow. But what you do in the winter is you get prepared for spring. And so it's the same thing in your life, that what you do in the winter of your life is you get prepared for the spring season, which is absolutely coming. So this is when you need to be reading your books. This is when you need to double down on your education. Now, what you find is that you really need to be doing this all year round, but there, you need to be reading it every season, but especially in the winter. Because what happens when you're in this space of depression, it's the thing about depression is that it creates this fence around you that even though you are in a sea of opulence, you cannot see the opulence. Here, I'm going to spell these words. Even though you were in a sea, S-E-A, even though you were in a sea of opulence, you cannot see, S-E-E, the opulence. And so it's like the fish in water walking around talking about where's the water, or walking, swimming around talking about where's the water. And so the winter of life is when you need to double down on your study. I have a question I'm going to look up and I'll share a story with you. So one of the things, oh wait, let me look up. Somebody said, Raymond says, can we look at the winters as growing experience? It may not seem like it at the same time, but in retrospect, I found the season to be a growth experience. You are never the same person after growing. I think you're always growing. So I don't think there's ever a point at which you are not growing. The question is maybe the degree to which you are growing, but there is a period where you are gathering and preparing. And this is the winter is for preparing. Alita says, so will Neville show up in this one? You gotta tell me what you mean, Alita. Some seeds need winter to germinate. I think all the seeds need the winter to germinate. They need that time in the dark. The winter is a time when you are equipping yourself. So when I went through what I call my dark night of the soul, when I flat out did not want to get out of bed, everything was just pitch black, meaning just the way my life felt, everything had just turned upside down on every level in my life. And the only thing that I knew to do was to pray. And so I would sit, and the story that I worked with, which is why it's one of my favorite stories, is a story of Elisha with the widow and the oil. And I literally read that story every day for 90 days. And I would push myself every day to find something different in that story. And I tell you, every day I would always get some little nugget, like different things that I didn't see before in that story. The winter is the time that you equip yourself. This is when you get better at seed planting. This is when you get better at thinking. So it's so tempting during the winter to focus on the winter, on how cold it is, on how everything is dead, nothing is right. But winter is when you actually get ready. The spring is going to come, but the quality of your spring is going to depend upon the work that you completed during the summer. And so completed during the winter. And so the question that you have to ask yourself is, what have you prepared to experience? What have you prepared to experience? And so you have to have the courage, because it really does take courage. It takes courage to do the work, and you're in the winter. You're in the winter. In the winter, there's not enough money. In the winter, there's no love. In the winter, there's just you and the four walls that you're living in. In the winter, things are bleak. Now, that can be a metaphor, because perhaps money is not the thing that you're working with. Maybe health is the thing that you're working with. So if health is a thing in your winter, there's always there's one illness after another, or one ailment after another. The courage is to do the work anyway. That even in the midst of nothing being the way that you wanted, that you're going to do the work to get ready for the springtime. That when springtime comes, I will be prepared for the plans that God has for me. And so I want to get in position. So where's God taking me? Well, okay, I'm using myself as an example. God is taking me to the status of, best-selling author, New York Times best-selling author, and world-renowned speaker. Well, the winter is when I get ready for that. I don't get ready in the springtime. I get ready in the wintertime. So that means that's when the classes are being held, or if I can't afford the classes, then I'm studying whoever I can study, that I am preparing myself as best I know how, because that's what you do during the winter. The winter is a period of intense preparation. It is not a time of hibernation. If you hibernate, you will be the same person come spring. And so you got to pick up the books. That's going to teach you what you need to know. You're going to need to take the classes and work on your craft. Don't shy away from the work that is required of you. Now, the other thing is you've got to resurrect your desire. This is what Neville says. He says, the thing to be resurrected is that which you desire to be. To do this, you must feel yourself to be the thing desired. The thing to be resurrected is that which you desire to be. To do this, you must feel yourself to be the thing desired. So what often happens during winter, literally, is that all we do is talk about how cold it is. And we're constantly checking the thermometer. Oh Lord, the temperature is 10 degrees today with a wind chill factor of -5, and we do that in our lives, right? We're checking the thermometer on our money. We're checking the thermometer on our friendships. We're checking the thermometer on our job prospects. We're checking the thermometer on our dream. And so we're paying attention to what is not. And the thing about attention is whatever you give it to, it magnifies. And so what you want to do during the winter months of your life is to give the bulk of your emotional power on feeling what you want to experience. I can't spend my whole day noticing how cold it is. I must give some of my attention to where I want to go come spring. And so I have to begin to pay attention. Perhaps the winter of my life brought a job loss. Staying in the winter would be focusing on what it feels like to not have a job. Preparing for spring is resurrecting the desire, that the desire to be gainfully employed, the peace of mind that comes from being gainfully employed, the sense of contribution, of being a part of a company and sharing and giving to that company, or whatever it is. Maybe you're a business owner. But the point is that you don't sit in the feeling and pay attention to what is a part of the winter. You begin to give your attention to where you want to go. I read this, this came out today. I know you guys some of you may have seen it. This was from Elizabeth Gilbert. Let me say this. Yvonne says, for number 2, you said a key word, and that is we need to feel what we want to experience and desire. Yes. Elizabeth Gilbert wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and her partner, significant other, made her transition 6 months ago. And she wrote this really, of course, now it was not going to be easy to find. Here it is. Here it is. She wrote this really powerful, it's just the way that she lives her life, kind of out loud and on paper. She wrote this really powerful statement about grief and what grief has taught her. And she shared it on Instagram, and I'm going to try to pull up a portion of it. And this is what she says. People keep asking me how I'm doing, and I'm not always sure how to answer that. It depends on the day. It depends on the minute. Right this moment, I'm okay. Yesterday, not so good. Tomorrow, we'll see. Here is what I have learned about grief, though. I have learned that grief is a force of energy that cannot be controlled or predicted. It comes and goes on its own schedule. Grief does not obey your plans or your wishes. Grief will do whatever it wants to you whenever it wants to. In that regard, grief has a lot in common with love. The only way that I can handle grief, she puts that in quotes, then is in the same way that I handle love, by not handling it, by bowing down before its power in complete humility. When grief comes to visit me, it's like being visited by a tsunami. I am given just enough warning to say, oh my God, this is happening right now. And then I drop to the floor on my knees and let it rock me. How do you survive the tsunami of grief? By being willing to experience it without resistance. The conversation of grief then is one of prayer and response. Grief says to me, you will never love anyone the way you love Raya. And I reply, I am willing for that to be true. Grief says she's gone and she's never coming back. I reply, I'm willing for that to be true. Grief says you will never hear that laugh again. I say, I am willing. Grief says you will never smell her skin again. I get down on the floor on my knees, and through my sheets of tears, I say, I am willing. This is the job of the living, to be willing to bow down before everything that is bigger than you, and nearly everything in this world is bigger than you. I don't know where Raya is now. It's not mine to know. I only know that I will love her forever and that I am willing. Onward. Sometimes the winter is so dark. But what you have to learn to do is to not fight the feeling of the darkness. That in the moment when the darkness overpowers you, surrender, let go. But keep pointing forward. And I love what she said, that even in when it catches you, I just get on the floor on my knees and I just surrendered because this is here and it's happening. But she ends the post by saying onward, that I know that a day will come when it won't be like this. Springtime is coming. It's winter right now. It's been 6 months since her death and the grief still comes in waves, but springtime is coming. And so as these emotions rock me, I know that they don't have the ability to break me. And so even in the midst of feeling devastated, I am reminded that this is part of that process. And so I don't try to handle it, but what I do is give my attention to what I want. And so I keep putting one foot in front of the other. This approach that I'm suggesting to you is not about fighting the appearance. And it is not about giving in or becoming numb to the appearance. You may be in the darkest moment of your life. It may have never seemed as dark as it seems today or in this season. What you have to know is that springtime is coming and you have some influence over who you will be come springtime. And so even as the grief rocks you to your core, that you can still put one foot in front of the other and keep going. That you have not been given a spirit of fear, but of power and of a sound mind. So even in what feels like the heaviest weight that you have ever had to carry, that there is still a reserve strength in you to do whatever needs to be done to change the way that your life looks. That you have not been left without an out. I feel like I want to say something else about this. When I was in that place of darkness, I just kept thinking, I'm so tired. Like I feel so tired. And yeah, I felt like I slept for an inordinate amount of time. Like just, I felt like I was always just sleeping, just I was too tired to get anything done. And but what I also remember is that I could pray for relief, and I would pray for relief, and the relief would come. And the relief would be just enough to give me the hope that I needed to put another foot in front of the other. And so while you're in the dark moment, it's to pray for that relief and then make use of that window. On a day when it just doesn't feel as heavy as everything else has ever felt, on this day, I'm going to pick up that book and read something positive. I'm not going to let this moment of relief go to waste. I'm going to direct that energy. I'm going to be intentional about that energy. You want to invest in the right beliefs. So Neville writes, the nail that binds you upon the cross is the nail of feeling. The mystical union is now consummated, and the result will be the birth of a child or the resurrection of a son, bearing witness to his father. What he's saying here, I've got a comment. Let me check this. Yvonne says, unfortunately, during the dark times, some people fall into deep depression. I agree. And I think that this is, as someone who has dealt with depression and who has come out of that, what brought me out of depression was my daily routine. When I made that daily routine non-negotiable, meaning whether I felt good about it or whether I didn't, but just did it every day, that little by little, my energy lifted. And it wasn't a overnight standing upright. It was a little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. Some days down, some days up. I didn't seek any professional help or use any kind of, antidepressants or anything like that. That wasn't just wasn't on my radar, and it wouldn't have been a path I would have been open to. But as I thought about Kate Spade, and as I thought about the post that my friend made in response to Kate Spade, I thought about what could we do? What could we do? Because I feel like this work that we're doing is so powerful to help people manage their mental state. And because that's all that we're doing. Every class that we do in the Bible Hangout is really about managing your mental state. It is that I have treasure within me. I have the ability to create whatever I absolutely dream of, doesn't matter what it is. And my work is to stay steady enough emotionally in order to get it out of me into expression. That's it. My work with God is to stay grounded enough to get it out of me into expression. Yvonne says, this makes me think of Kate Spade, who probably had everything, but that wasn't enough. Yeah. But to me, I feel like that's the work that we're doing here. That what I'm giving you in this class, or what we're giving each other through this process, are the tools to stay grounded no matter what the circumstances are. And I felt this way for a while. I thought about that. I don't know where the work is, meaning But I have felt for a while that, we are a viable solution for some of the lower grade issues in mental health, the things that are high grade, multiple personalities, whatever that spectrum is. I don't know that we're equipped to do that, but moderate depression, things that can be handled without drugs, that kind of stuff. I feel like we have solutions, and that we can help people to get back in their right minds. In this, he gives this whole mystical explanation of the cross and the sun moving through the sky, and I thought I could explain that, and I was like, no, I can't. I'm gonna just let that sit right there. So what I'm gonna give you for this is that no moment lasts forever. To everything, there's a season. No moment lasts forever. And I think that's one of the things with depression, is that when you're in that winter moment, it feels like it's going to last forever, and nothing lasts forever. Not one thing. Nothing in your life has ever lasted forever. Even in your darkest moments, even if you were depressed, that depression changed. No moment lasts forever. To everything, there's a season. And so if you're going through a dark moment right now, if you can just know in your heart that this moment is going to resolve itself. And so control what you can control, influence what you can influence. You can't influence everything. You can't control everything. So that you can't control and influence, let it go. Instead of draining your energy, because sometimes you might be in the midst of something and it's like, when is this going to end? Like, just I'm so tired. When is this going to be over? That's an energy draining question, because you really don't know the answer to the question. There really is no answer. There is an answer to the question, but you have to be a different person to get that answer anyway. You want to invest your time in locking in a sense of conviction that you need in order to be who you want to be. So I don't know how long the winter is going to last, but I can tell you who I'm going to be once the winter is over. When I was living in my friend's home, I was renting a room in her home. I wasn't living in my condo. I had a tenant here, and he was wilding out. It's a whole other thing. And, making $10 an hour or some crazy little amount of money, and just struggling, that I couldn't tell you when the winter was going to end. But what I could tell you is who I was going to be. And so one of the things that I did, there's a book that I love called Seed Money in Action. I'm going to share this with you guys, because I think this is so powerful, at least a part of it. So I recorded this affirmation in my phone, and on this little $10 an hour job, I would sit and so the first thing I would do, I would take a journal. I would take a legal pad like this, and I would go into work. And it was a telemarketing job, and we were raising money for like Habitat for Humanity, places like that. And I would just sit and write affirmations in between phone calls. It was on a dialer. I would write affirmations between phone calls, and it was such an emotional struggle. And I thought, God, this is like, I can't believe I have this job. Why do I have 2 degrees and I'm working a telemarketing job? What in the heck has happened? I mean, it was just felt like the lowest of the low. So I would write affirmations, and then on break, I wouldn't talk to anybody. I would go sit in my car, and I would play the recording of this affirmation. I know who I am. I am the selector, the director, the guide, the pattern maker, the blueprinter of that unlimited, unformed, yet all-powerful, completely obeying infinite energy, which every instant of my life flows through my mind. I am the eyes, the fingertips, the consciousness of that infinite energy. I am the sole ruler and absolute monarch of that infinite energy, which flows through my mind. That infinite energy is my omnipotent and willing servant, follows exactly my every order. My words and thoughts and emotions form that infinite energy into the conditions and circumstances of my life and environment. That all-powerful infinite energy is constantly and precisely fulfilling, transforming, my words and thoughts and emotions into their physical counterparts. No words or thoughts or emotions of mine ever return to me unfulfilled. Therefore, I am always exceedingly careful. I'm going to mute somebody. Hold on. No, that's not what I want to do. Give me 1 second. I got to do a mute here. There we go. Okay. I can hear your chips, Milela. All right. No words or thoughts or emotions of mine ever return to me unfilled. Therefore, I am always exceedingly careful that all my words and thoughts and emotions are beneficial, positive, constructive, and specific in all of their aspects. By guiding and directing that infinite energy forever flowing through my mind with words and thoughts and emotions which are beneficial, positive, constructive, and specific, I bless myself with perfect health, with ever renewing life, with inexhaustible vitality, with everlasting youthfulness, with wisdom and understanding, with wealth, prosperity, happiness, and an overflowing abundance of all good things of life. I bless my fellow beings with beneficial, positive, constructive, and specific words and thoughts and emotions, and also with gifts of money, services, aid, help, love, praise, and encouragement, and claim my tenfold return on all of these from the infinite, as is both my privilege and my duty as a conscious expression of the source of that infinite energy. That always obedient, all-powerful infinite energy, which flows constantly through my mind, always brings my tenfold return to me. Daily, my capacity to receive increases, expands, and magnifies. All good completely fills my life and environment and the lives and environments of all of my fellow beings. All good is formed from all powerful, all present, all knowing infinite energy, which is mine to use here and now and is from God. All power, all presence, all knowledge, and I am one with God, so I am, so is it. By the time that played twice in my ear, the break was over and I would go back in. I'd sit down at my station and write out my affirmations. Inside of 6 months, the energy just broke. And it was one promotion after another, after another. And ultimately, I landed in a corporate position, which I didn't even know exists when I got to the company, where I was managing one of the higher divisions where we would cultivate donors to become major gift donors. People who were giving between $500 and say $2,000 in a calendar year, who had the potential to graduate to being a major donor and making a gift of $25,000 or more on an annual basis to the organization. And so my team would work with a small pool of donors over the course of 12 months, cultivating them and looking for those diamonds in the rough. You don't know when the energy is going to break. You don't know when the winter season is going to be over. That's not given to you. What you can say is, who are you going to be once winter ends? And so during the winter, you want to invest your time in the beliefs that support who you want to become. I didn't know when I was going to be out of this $10 an hour job. It felt like the worst thing in the world, besides the fact that it was embarrassing. But I knew I had some tools that I had learned from Reverend Della, and that's what I used to invest in the right beliefs. And during the winter season of your life, you must invest in the right beliefs. Springtime is coming, but will you be different when springtime gets here? Number 4, you got to kill the right plants. Listen, something's got to die. That's why you're in the winter in the first place, because it's time for some things to die. He says, the day you cease to be conscious of being that which you are now conscious of being, that day your child or expression shall die and return to the bosom of his father, the faceless, formless awareness. Everything in your life lives or dies off the attention that you give it. Sometimes we're in the winter of our lives keeping things alive that we don't even see how we're keeping it alive. But the winter is the perfect time for reassessment. This is the time to shake things up and to really take some inventory and get clear. Is this what I want in my life right now? And ask yourself the question, is there something that I need to jettison? Is there something that's in the way of me growing? It might be good for me, but it's not good for me right now. And so you have to ask the question, what needs to go in order for me to grow? It might be a person, it might be a place, it might be a thing, but you've got to be willing to let it go in order to grow. It takes courage, because there may be people that are attached to you in ways that you feel like you can't let them go. You may have someone that you are in relationship with, and just because of the way the relationship came together, you feel like it's a relationship that you have to figure out how to maintain. And I'm telling you, in the winter, you got to kill the plants. So everything don't need to come to the springtime with you. Some things need to die off in the winter. And you're going to have the courage to let it go. I've got a comment. Yvonne says, while you were in your winter, did you see yourself as the leader of a church? Girl, no. No. I'll tell you something though. I have two people in my life who are like seers, if you will. One is my co-author for the Money Poems, Mark Allen Felton, is a world-renowned saxophone player and just incredible mind all around. And the other one is my former prayer partner, Kim Yarbrough, who is phenomenal woman. She was on The Voice. She's got her show with her new band coming up in LA later this month. Both of them separately said to me, you know, you're next in line in regards to Up Church. Not on any level, anywhere could I have seen that. I can't think of any circumstance where that possibility passed through my mind and made sense at all. But both of them on separate occasions, unrelated to one another, said that to me. So no, when I was in my darkest moment, I just wanted to be out of the darkness. That's really it. It was, I don't know how to explain it, but you know, I had all these dreams for prosperity and things that I wanted to accomplish. And, you know, we used to, Kim and I used to call ourselves billionaire babes. And on December 31st, we would do a Billionaire Babes Day. And we would go to, like, one year we went to Neiman's, we went test driving luxury cars. And then we ended the day with dinner at, was it Crustaceans? I think so, with dinner at Crustaceans. And so the idea was that we were going to do these like Billionaire Babes Days, you know, once a year. And going through that dark night of the soul, it just, like, things got so bad. It just, like, it's almost like I lost the taste for the dream. And it was, and this is hindsight now. It wasn't that I lost the taste for the dream, but it was almost like I stopped believing that it was possible, and I just wanted to get out of the hole. Like, that was it. Like, I just don't want to be in this kind of financial distress and pain any longer. And so for a time, I had to let go of the things that I felt like I was striving for, because reaching for them at a certain point just felt foolish. It felt foolish to want something and you could barely put two nickels together. And so I really had to die to the form of my dreams the way that I dreamed about them when I was in my 20s. You know, and I had to open myself to a new way of considering them once I got on the other side of that. You know, they didn't go anywhere, but I had to come to them as a new person. That was one of the plants, I guess, that had to die. Number 5. Now this right here, deep conviction ends the winter. Now, this is what he says. This is on page 81. He says, before you have any visible proof that you are, whatever it is you want to be, before you have any visible proof that you are, you will, from the deep conviction which you have felt fixed within you, know that you are. Hear that. Before you see anything external, you will get a deep conviction inside of you that you are already it. I don't need any science to tell me that this is it, that I am it. And so without waiting for confirmation of your senses, you will cry, "It is finished." Then with a faith born of the knowledge of this changeless law, you will, as one dead and entombed, you will be still and unmoved in your conviction and confident that you will resurrect the qualities that you have fixed and are feeling within you. Winter lasts as long as it takes you to get to the point of conviction. When you get a sense of conviction inside of you that this shall be mine, nothing, it don't really matter what then is happening outside of you. It's almost like you lose your eye for, you forget that it's winter, or it's immaterial that it's winter, because this is going to change. Every demonstration I've had in my experience has come off of just getting to the place where this is just what it is. This shall be mine. It's an energy. And I the first time I experienced it, I was actually in a pageant. And I was in a pageant in Philadelphia. It was for the Masons or the Daughters of Isis or something like that. And I guess I knew I had to wear a swimsuit for the swimsuit competition, but it was the actual feeling of walking out and being looked at in a swimsuit and judged. And it was something that happened in me when I walked in that swimsuit. It was just like, oh, y'all gonna give me this trophy. I won first place. Like, it was just like I shifted, like just something inside of me was like, I'm taking this trophy. If I have to be ogled, give me that trophy. And I did. I won first place and then, moved through the competition to the next level. But that sense of conviction, when you get it, it's everything is yours. It was that way when I got ready to go to grad school. I had decided that I was getting out of Philadelphia and I was coming to Los Angeles to pursue film, and nothing would stop me. And I went, I hadn't graduated undergrad yet. I still had a foreign language requirement to satisfy and like one other elective. And I decided to study French for whatever reason. And so I had what I thought were 4 semesters to complete it, which would have been fine. So I got into USC and AFI and I found out that I started studying. I tested into the, here, honey. Here, baby, you can take this one. There you go. I found out in the process that, because I was like, oh, I'll defer a year and like reapply to go to film school. And then I learned that I couldn't, that basically if I deferred, I would have to like apply again the next year. And it was like, oh, no. I already know what I went through to apply to get in. I'm not going through that again. And it was like moving heaven and earth. And I was literally just knocking down French classes left and right. And I got to the very end and they said, the 4th semester is not going to be offered, which basically means you can't graduate and leave and go to graduate school. And so my only option was to basically test out of French to prove fluency in order to test out. And the thing that I was worried about most was that I was great reading and writing. I could read and write all day long, but I couldn't hear because in French, they don't pronounce the ends of words. And so I was practicing. And I found a French family that lived in my building. I don't even know where they came from, but God puts people in your life when you need it. And I found this French family and I would talk to them about moving to Los Angeles. And I went into the French exam, nervous as all get out, because if she says something and I can't hear, then I'm going to get nervous and it's going to just wreck the exam. And when I went in, she said, "How are you?" And, most people say, "Come see, come side." I'm okay. And I was like, "I am fantastic." Like, I was like over the top. And she was like, "All right, well, why are you so fantastic?" And I said, "Well, I am getting ready to move to LA and study film." Well, that was the only conversation that I had been having with the people in the building that lived in my building. And at that time, filmmaking was still this mysterious thing that only happened really in Los Angeles. And so she was so fascinated by that our entire conversation was about me going to Los Angeles, which I had been practicing that conversation all along. Winter ends when you reach the point of unshakable inner conviction. I don't care how it is going to happen. I just know that it is. And if you can learn how to get yourself to that place of conviction, you can end every winter in your experience. Winter ends when you stop paying attention to the end result and resolve to do your best no matter what it is. When I resolved that I will be in Los Angeles fall 1995 for film school, that's just what's going to happen. And then everything began to move in alignment with the conviction in my heart. And so deep conviction ends winter. And so this is a review. The 5 rules to rock the winters of life. 1, use the winter well, prepare. Number 2, resurrect your desire. Practice feeling what it is that you want to be come spring. Number 3, invest in the right beliefs. The season is here. You can't change that. But what you can do is prepare for who you will be in spring, because springtime is coming. Number 4, kill the right plants. Everything that walked in the winter with you don't need to come out in spring with you. Some things need to die. And you need to decide what you're going to stop giving your attention to. And number 5, deep conviction ends winter. When you decide that this is it and nothing else, this and not that, it's a wrap. It's a done deal. It is yours. And so the question to add that I have for you is, have you been running from the winters of life? And I know prior to being in my dark night of the soul, I would say I ran from the winters of life, meaning that I didn't want to deal with it. I kept trying to avoid it. And it was like, it's here. So, face it. And I think things had gotten bad enough that I couldn't do the private juggling that I had been doing. And I just had to really face what was happening in my experience. And what I would say is, choose one area where you are experiencing life's winter and resolve to develop the conviction that makes it end. That might be, like, for example, for me right now, it is my car. It's time to replace my car. And it's something I've been like hemming and hawing, and I got to get it done or whatever. And it's like, no, it's got to get done. And so every day I'm online looking for where that new vehicle is, because I have resolved that this is going to be it. And I know in that resolution, there comes a point when it's like, this is done. I'm not worried about how, because I know that it is, and it shall be, period. So choose an area in your life where you're experiencing life's winter and get to that place of conviction that this and not that. I will have it, period. I have a comment. He says, how are you? Comment allez-vous or comment vas-tu? Yes, that used to be, I used to be able to answer that question. I am well. I can tell you that in English now. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions? I hope this was helpful. I think we all go through dark moments. And I think that the power is in, how do we handle the dark moments? How do we handle the dark moments? You don't get away from the dark moments. Each of us has that, what we would call dark energy in us, that has to really be brought out and brought to the light, right? That's part of that our soul evolution is bringing all of it out of us and making use of it, and transforming that energy. That's what part of the transfiguration is about, that we're transfiguring all of the elements of who we are into the best of who we are. And so it is, incumbent upon us not to run from what we don't want to see, but to face it head on and face it in a way that's healthy. Thank you, Jojo says it was helpful. Thank you. Next week, we will be in the impressions. Like I apostrophe M, like impressions, the impressions. And that's page 82, 83. So 82 to 86, 82 to 86, the impressions. Any questions? The book that I read the affirmation from is Seed, Money, and Action. Now, I want to tell you about this book. This book is, Joe Vitale got the rights to reprint this book. This is not a diss to Joe. I'm going to tell you I prefer this one. This very, very little thin book. It's out of print. I guess that's not the way to show it to you. Seed, Money, and Action. John Speller is the author. This is a powerful, powerful book. I recommend this book, but this version in particular, because there are three versions of it. There's the original that was written by, oh boy, John Hosher. The original was written by John Hosher in 1960. In 1965, John Speller got the rights from John Hosher to republish the book and add in Bible verses. Joe Vitale, is it Joe Vitale? Joe Vitale got the rights to republish this book and update it. And he made a much thicker book, like it's like this thick, right? But I am recommending this one. This one I think is powerful. It's simple. It's pocket sized. If you can find it in a used bookstore on eBay or Abe Books, I think it's powerful and definitely one to add to your library. This was one I found just scouring used bookstores back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Seed, Money, and Action, Working the Law of Tenfold Return. Working the Law of Tenfold Return by John Speller. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great night, guys. I will see you guys next week. Take care.